I am pleased to be joined by Henry Barbour this morning, GOP strategist, longtime friend of the program, and relatively new father-in-law. I should say, first of all, congratulations. Got a wedding that's now a couple of weeks in the rearview mirror. I'm sure it was wonderful.
It was great. My youngest got married in Yazoo City, married a boy that went to the University of Alabama, so we're trying to overlook that. But we're excited. We got all of them married now, so we're rolling.
That is that is outstanding. Once all the invoices clear, you can exhale and get ready to move on with life. So congratulations to you and your daughter and the whole family. Henry, we've got special elections coming up, and we've talked about them a lot, but I feel like they are very much still flying under the radar, at least statewide. Maybe locally they are getting the attention that they deserve, but it's a little bit of an odd time, right? We're not in a presidential election year. We're not in a midterm year. These are special elections, and they are a result of some of the redistricting that has happened, some people that were in office that have moved to other offices and have therefore opened up seats. We got a bunch of seats, though, that are up for grabs in the legislature. I think 17 in total.
Yeah. The big thing that happened, a federal 3-judge panel decided that the maps that the legislature drew didn't meet their criteria, and so they ordered the map to be redrawn, specifically in DeSoto County area and Hattiesburg area in the Senate, and in the Chickasaw County area in the House. And so legislature had to do that. And then on top of that, you've had John Horn elected the mayor of Jackson. And so we've got about 43 people running for mayor. For John Horn's Senate seat in North Hinds County. And then we also have a special election in the Senate up around Greenwood, because David Jordan, who had served for over 30 years in the Senate, he retired. David Jordan, much respected, but in his 90s, and a much deserved retirement for David Jordan.
He earned retirement, no doubt.
Yeah, that's right. And you got 5 or 6 people running for that race, and those two races where you got so many people running, you'll end up having a runoff almost guaranteed, and that'll happen in 3 weeks after the Tuesday, November 4 elections.
So of these seats that are up for grab, whether we're talking about in the Senate or the House, which races are the most hotly contested? I mean, you talk about the big field in Hinds County and in some of these other spots, but in terms of really hotly contested, the outcome is very much in question. Where is your focus?
I think there are 2 that stand out to me that could go either way. And Senate District 45, which is in Hattiesburg, we've got Johnny Dupree, the former mayor of Hattiesburg, and he's run for Congress, he's run for Secretary of State, he's run for governor, and of course mayor. And Johnny Dupree is being challenged, even though he's not the incumbent, it's not exactly the right way to say it, by a local prosecutor, Anna Rush. And it's an interesting contrast because Johnny Dupree has been around forever. He's run for everything. He's lost all those races, except he did serve a long time as a mayor in Hattiesburg. But Anna Rush is a newcomer. I think she's in her mid-30s. She's an attorney, was a prosecutor. And I think that's a pretty fascinating race. You've got some national money coming into that race, and some of the other races that the Democrat National Committee, Richard, has said they're spending, a significant amount, which I think is something over $100,000, but spread out over several races. That's really not that much money. It allows them to probably, do a mail piece or two and some of these races. But that race down in Hattiesburg between Dupree and Anna Rush is a hotly contested race. And I think the other race that's close is State House District 22. You got Amory, Aberdeen, Clay County, Chickasaw County, Monroe County, and you got John Lancaster, who is the incumbent, and they redrew the district, and it went from, and I will say Lancaster was a Democrat. He switched to the Republican Party after being elected in 2019, and that the black voting age population in that district went from about 30% black voting age population to 51%. So it made it much more likely that a Democrat could win. And so Justin Crosby's the Democrat there. John Lancaster is the incumbent. He's a Republican. And that is a, sure enough, close race that could go either way. All these races, though, in a special election, you got really low turnout. People aren't paying attention, which is why I think it's important on SuperTalk that y'all are talking about these races, is to remind people, hey, we got a race on Tuesday, November 4, but turnout will decide who wins this. And a lot of times in a tough district, you got Republicans running for John Horn's seat in the Jackson area who think maybe they can pull it off. And it's a tough district for Republicans, just as Senate District 45 down in Hattiesburg is a tough district. It's got 51% black voting age population. But if people turn out on one side and they're kind of sleepy on the other side, all of a sudden you can win in districts that normally you might not be able to.
So in terms of driving turnout, we know that there's a grassroots effort. We know that there are phone calls from candidates and the people that are close to those candidates trying to encourage their fellow citizens to get out and vote, fellow supporters to go out and vote. What is generally speaking, what's the effectiveness of that when you're trying to drive turnout?
Well, it's a challenge. I will say, when people don't care, it's just hard to get them interested. And so the first thing that a good campaign will do is you focus on those voters who vote all the time, and you make sure that they're educated, that they know that there's a candidate running and they got to turn out. And you reach them by mail, you reach them by digital, you reach them by radio, you pick up the phone and call them. The best way to reach people is person to person and with local volunteers. And say that's an art that is really lost in a lot of campaigns these days. We don't exactly have what Haley would call participatory campaigns. We want to pay for it. We just want to spend the money. But successful campaigns have got a good mix of money and a good mix of volunteers. And I think down in Hattiesburg and the Dupree Rush race, that's the sort of environment where you really can, I think, get people fired up and working. But it makes a big difference, Richard. And you've got some outside groups. I'll say on the Republican side, the Improved Mississippi PAC, which Derek Easley runs, Go ahead.
Henry, hold that thought. We're up against a break. Let's pick that up on the other side of a quick timeout. Henry Barbour, my guest, GOP strategist. We're back with you right after this on MRC. Back with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross. C Spire text line is open to you, 601-879-4395. Whether you're looking for the best in wireless, the best in home internet, or the best in business IT services, C Spire has you covered. Learn more online at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. Henry Barbour is my guest, longtime GOP strategist. He has worked in local races and state-level races and gubernatorial races. He's worked at the federal level. He knows Mississippi politics, and we're talking about the upcoming special elections 2 weeks from yesterday, a week from this coming Tuesday. November the 4th is Election Day. 17 seats are up for grabs in the House and the Senate. We get a message on the C Spire text line that says Hattiesburg Senate District 45 will be impacted by a contested judicial race. The circuit court race should help motivate voters to show up since both candidates are out campaigning hard. I think it could drive up the Republican turnout. Talking about District 45 in that one specifically.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I had forgotten about that local judicial race. And that is, part of, just sort of the dynamics that happen in races, what else is going on. And that is the only other thing on the ballot that is not a legislative race, the only thing statewide. And, but it does so happen to be in Hattiesburg. And so, that's one more reason, and that could be the difference. Just that, all that coming together. And like I said earlier, it's really hard to get people engaged in a special election. They're busy tending to their work and their family. And so, having another race is helpful. I was mentioning, there are some outside groups that are spending some money on mail and radio and a bit of advertising, one of which is the Impact, the Improved Mississippi PAC, which Derek Easley runs. Derek runs BIPAC, but Impact is a separate group that engages in political activity. The Mississippi Realtors are also investing in some of these closer races. Tommy Duff's PAC, Tommy Duff, he's thinking about running for governor, has got his political advisor, Josh Gregory, involved in some of these races. And then I have learned that Jane Fonda's Climate PAC has endorsed Johnny Dupree in District 45. And Jane Fonda, I think most of our listeners know who Jane Fonda is, but she's pretty well on the, I'll just say, the left-wing Democrat side. And so that's interesting. And I mentioned earlier that the National Democrat Party has invested something over $100,000 with the Mississippi Democrat Party for these races. I was going to ask you
about that. So there was kind of a splash when the DNC said that they were going to be investing in some of these Mississippi races. It's not the first time that we've seen outside money. We know that in the Hugh Keating race in Gulfport, the mayor's race, there was some outside money, but that was not specific to the DNC. That was from Stacey Abrams' group and some others. The splash was, hey, this is the biggest investment from the DNC into local Mississippi elections. It's a six-figure deal, and nobody told us whether or not it was $100,000 or $999,000. You think the money is actually, because it's split across so many races, it doesn't necessarily, is it more symbolic than it is functional?
I think there's a practical impact, just as okay. I would imagine what they're spending with the DNC is probably on par with what Impact and Duff PAC and the Realtors are spending, kind of from the center right side. So pretty comparable, but if you have an extra 20 grand, particularly in a house race, that can make a real difference as far as contacting voters and educating them through the mail, through radio ads, through telephone calls or text messages. Some of that stuff matters. What matters the most is, the candidate. What's the candidate doing? How hard is the candidate working? Do they have an organized campaign? Are they talking about the issues, whether it be crime or education or the economy that people care about? Who's connecting? And that's where I keep thinking about District 45. I just think the Dupree-Rush race is the most interesting race to me. It's a 51% Black voting age population, which gives Dupree an advantage. But Dupree's got a lot of political baggage over the years, over the last 20 years. I'm not sure that Democrats are all that fired up down there about Dupree's candidacy. And so I think Anna Rush has got a very good chance of winning that race. And I certainly expect it to be very close. And that's one where if you live in Lamar County, you live in Forest County in that district, you need to vote, and you need to contact your family members. You need to talk to people at church about the importance of voting in that Senate race, as well as the local circuit judge races.
Visiting with Henry Barbour, GOP strategist, a veteran of many, many campaigns. He's with Capital Resources. And I would love for you, if you don't mind, just to pull your crystal ball out. We are waiting on a ruling from the Supreme Court at the federal level on this case, Louisiana versus slaves. And it could trigger redistricting, congressional redistricting, and in multiple states in the Southeast. Will Mississippi be one of those? If the Supreme Court rules in the favor of Louisiana, and in effect repeals the Voting Rights Act that kind of dictates the way districts are drawn, where you have to have majority districts, will Mississippi redistrict its 4 congressional districts, and could that be the end of Bennie Thompson's long and I'll just stop at long reign as a congressman for District 2?
Yeah. Well, Richard, I don't think so.
Really?
I tend to think that it won't get redrawn, and I don't see a situation where Bennie Thompson is going to get beat in District 2 in Mississippi. It just seems to be the practical political reality of the makeup of the Delta, and you combine that with Hinds County. I don't think that's likely to happen. I would love to see a change there, but I don't think it's very likely. But it is interesting that this Supreme Court race, or not race, but Supreme Court decision that Louisiana is up there fighting for, and be interesting to see what comes of that. But I don't think it changes what's going on in Mississippi. We'll see if I'm right.
Henry, last thing for you, and we probably don't have enough time to really dive into this. You mentioned Tommy Duff earlier. Worst kept secret in politics in the state of Mississippi that he is considering a run for governor. It's kind of an interesting case study. You're talking about somebody that has not been involved in politics at all. His only foray into it so far has been through some donations through Duff PAC. Do you think ultimately that he runs for governor? And if he does, what are his chances?
I think there's a very good chance that he runs. There are a whole host of others Andy Gibson is announced, and
Right.
you know, and there are plenty of others who are positioning. But I think the odds are better than 50-50 that Tommy Duff runs. And let's just say it, you know, Tommy Duff is a billionaire. And, you know, for him to spend $12 million in a Republican primary is a very doable thing. And I think if his campaign can talk about the issues that people care about, crime, education, economy, jobs, you know, it'll be hard to overcome, you know, that kind of spending, especially if they also can go out and, you know, get a lot of volunteers involved in the campaign.
We'll talk about
it'll be
that
interesting
more
to see
next
how
time.
he connects. Yeah.
Henry, thanks so much.
Thanks, Richard.